All right. Well, welcome to another presentation of the Working Parents Network at the University of Kentucky. Today we'll be talking about music therapy and music techniques for social emotional skills for children. Thank you. We have a wonderful guest with us today. We have Nora Veblen, and she is going to talk to us about just how we can support our children using music.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Welcome, everybody. Like Azetta said, I'm going to be talking about music therapy and music techniques for social emotional skills. I will start with just a little bit about me. I'll tell you my plan for today, just to introduce myself and my business, Wildwood Music Therapy. So you'll see that logo in the corner there. I'm going to provide a little clarity about what music therapy is. Just as a field, often there's a lot of confusion about what we do. Though since you all are at UK, you might already be familiar because there's a medical music therapy program and a training program in the College of Music. Then I'll jump into some information about where you can access music therapy for your kids, and then go over some resources for using music yourself to benefit your kids. And I'll have a PDF that you all will get at the end of the presentation. So just to start, like I said, my name's Nora. I did all my training here at UK for music ed, and then I went on and did music therapy. I did my internship at UK Healthcare in the hospital, and that's all over the hospital, Eastern State Hospital and Markey Cancer Center. And then worked in the schools working on IEP goals for kids. And then I went on and worked in a hospital, and kind of came back to Lexington 2020, COVID happened and stuff. And so started my own private practice. So we're located here in Lexington, and we do music therapy and music lessons. Our values that we really like to focus on are being caring, curious, and being collaborative with the people we work on. And we strive to be neurodiversity inclusive. So you'll notice I've sort of changed the language a little bit to social emotional skills rather than social skills, because I'm learning from autistic self-advocates that sometimes that term social skills implies that autistic kids don't have social skills, but they do. They just might be a little bit different from their allistic counterparts. So it's really something everybody can work on, because we all need to, we all use social and emotional skills every day. So we'll get more into that, but just to start with, what is music therapy? I'm going to break down this definition from the American Music Therapy Association, in case this is something you're interested in and want to pursue. So music therapy is the evidence-based use of music interventions to accomplish individualized goals within a therapeutic relationship by a credentialed professional who's completed an approved music therapy program. And just to start, so some of those interventions, if you just think about all the ways that you interact with music, and all the different parts of music, melody, harmony, the lyrics, are you actively making music? Are you creating your own music? Are you recreating music that you love? Improvising, so some other things on here, electronic music, moving to music. There's so many ways that we all engage in music. And so we can use some of these things strategically to work on some of those social emotional goals. Like I said, accomplishing individualized goals. Some other goals might be alleviating pain, improving communication. So music therapists work with folks across the lifespan and in a lot of different settings: memory care, early childhood, adult day, addiction rehab, all kinds of ways that we can use music. The next part of the definition is within a therapeutic relationship. So that's a really important part of music therapy, as well as having that positive rapport and relationship with the therapist, somebody that can be there to evaluate what they're doing. Is this working? Like I said earlier, being curious and showing the person how much you care about them. And then just just a little of the logistics by a credentialed professional. So this means you've done your bachelor's degree in music therapy, you did your internship, and then you did that board certification exam. So if you're looking for a music therapist, you are going to want to look for someone who has that board certification from the CBMT, and that's what that little image is on the top right corner. You can ask for that to make sure the person is certified. And finally, that they have completed an approved music therapy program. And like I said, they have one at UK in the School of Music, and the training covers a variety of different topics, music skills, of course, neuroanatomy, psychology, counseling kind of techniques. So, but don't want to do too much of that. I want to move into kind of the meat of why you're here. By the way, if anybody has any questions or if I'm talking too quickly, feel free to stop me. You can put anything in the chat. But so music therapy resources for kids. So here in Lexington, I thought of kind of two categories of where you can access music therapy resources. So inpatient or facility-based care examples. If your child is receiving services at UK Healthcare in the hospital and inpatient, there are pediatric music therapists and NICU music therapists that can help work on normalizing the environment, reducing fear, pain reduction, all kinds of different things, mood elevation, and then the very specialized kind of program in the NICU. The Ridge Behavioral Health has music therapy, Good Sam. And if you have a child in Fayette County Public Schools, there are some music therapy practices that contract with the schools. If your child has an IEP and it is determined that they're not meeting their goals at the rate that you would hope, or at a quote unquote appropriate rate, you can request that they be assessed for music therapy services, and a music therapist comes in and sees how they respond to music therapy, and if they believe that would be a good way for them to achieve those goals through music. Because for a lot of kids, music just sort of opens doors that other modalities might not. And then finally, daycares. There are some daycares in town that have contracted with music therapists. We go to a couple. We've been to Woodland Early Learning Center. So I know there's a lot of UK folks that send their kids there, and done some events with them. But those are some different ways. If your like daycare or school or private school doesn't have music therapy or music classes, and it's something you're interested in, I encourage you to reach out to them or reach out to us or another private practice to see if that's something they might be interested in providing for you. And then the other big category is outpatient and community care. So basically private practices like mine, Wildwood Music Therapy, but there are several other practices in Lexington and in the surrounding areas that provide private music therapy services. This can be a self-referral. Unfortunately, music therapy is not currently covered by insurance. And so I guess sort of the flip side of that that's positive is that you can self-refer. You don't need a doctor's referral. And you and your music therapist have really the control over how long you receive the service, what the goals are, how long the sessions are, that kind of thing. So I'll go ahead to our next page. So here's some examples of what some of those things might be. This is just what we are offering at Wildwood, but there are different offerings at different private practices. So music therapy services, if your child is interested in learning an instrument, but may also benefit from some of those non-musical goals, we can do a bit of a hybrid. So they're still learning an instrument, but we're really we're also really focusing on coping skills, or we're really adapting the lessons to meet their needs. Some of the groups that we offer or that you might be able to find in town, Bright Beginnings Music is a developmental group for kids. We have social emotional music therapy groups, and we're working towards some groups for teens. And then we also have some summer camps. That's how I met Azetta and got connected with our camps are on the UK summer camp list. So I encourage you to check all those things out. I'll get into more about the benefit of being involved in a music group a little bit later, regardless of if it's music therapy or like a lesson group or band or something like that. There are a lot of benefits to making music with other people because you have to listen to each other. You have to take turns being the center of attention, and it takes some courage to play in front of other people. There's just a lot of different things, different benefits, no matter where you're doing that. So before I jump into some specific tips, I did want to point this out. So in music therapy, I mentioned you start with the referral. Again, that can be self-referral. We would do an assessment of needs and skills and strengths, what type of music they like. We do treatment planning, then of course implementing that, doing those music interventions, and then always evaluating if what we're doing is working or if we need to change it. And if somebody meets their goals or we run out of time, then services are terminated. In the hospital, if you all are working in the hospital, all of these might happen within 20-40 minute session. In private practice, where it's a little bit more long term, we can work on these over time. So the reason I want to point this out is because when I start to talk about some tips, these are just general tips. I have not obviously assessed your individual child, and so I can't say how these ideas will work for you. You will probably need to adapt them a little bit, but if you're interested in getting something more individualized for your child, I do encourage you to reach out to a music therapist at one of the resources that I mentioned. So go ahead and skip to this slide if I can. So I'm thinking about the best way to present this to you all. I sort of came up with these 6 categories of ways of using music. Pairing routines with music, music as a container, emotional vocabulary building, expression, curiosity and self-compassion, and then participation in a music group. So, Azetta, I'm going to switch over to a PDF here, and it might be helpful to, let's see. I'm going to make that a little bigger. Okay. And I can no longer see the chat, so I might need some help with that. Azetta, are you seeing the PDF? Can you let me know?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, great. So, okay. And if anybody has any questions, let me know. Put them in the chat, or if as we're going over this, if you think of a particular thing at home that whatever I say sparks something, please put it in the chat and I'll try to include that. So you all will get this PDF. Like I said, I don't know exactly how these things will work for your child. They're just general kind of ideas from my experience. So that first kind of bucket of ideas, pairing routines with music. This can ease the transition of whatever you're moving into next, because kids are ready. They aren't having to move into the next thing right away. They have a little bit of time to prepare emotionally and physically, prime their movement. I use some songs all the time in our Bright Beginnings group, like I'll just sing this one where it's like, all done shakers, all done shakers, all done shakers, it's time for something new. Now, the first time we did that, it was sort of teaching them, okay, it's time to put up the shakers, and then we sang, pick up the shakers and put it in the basket, pick up the shakers and put it in the basket, pick up the shaker and put it in the basket, all done shakers. And the first time we did that, we had to sort of teach them what to do. But kids that have come back, as soon as they hear all done, that first all done, they right away, they get their shaker and they put it in the basket. So it's become sort of this cue, this like reminder that they know exactly what to do, and they're not having to think about, they're not thinking about how difficult it is to put away something that they like. They instead are engaging in a fun cleanup song. So these two songs in particular, the transition and the cleaning up song, have been really useful. A lot of people have told me they use those at home. A morning song, I've given you some different YouTube videos that I recommend kind of checking out. This may be more for younger kids, singing a song, and babies singing a song in the morning, so that they know they're about to get up and they're not jumping right into the discomfort of waking up, which we can all relate to. But that being said, one risk to be conscious of is that if you keep using like a song you really like paired with something you don't like, that can have the unwanted effect of making you not like that song anymore. So if you like think about your alarm song, when you hear it now, you might have a different kind of emotional response. That doesn't always happen, but it's just something to be aware of. If you're always pairing a fun song with something they don't like, just kind of notice that. And as we go through, I'm going to be putting up some information from the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, which is abbreviated CASEL. From that framework, just sort of these 5 different pillars of social emotional learning. So for this one, I thought the one that fit most was kind of responsible decision making. We're kind of practicing these cleanup or moving to the next thing, making that choice. But the song makes it less of a choice and more of a response, more of an activity than having to choose to clean up. The next big bucket here, music as a container, and this is a little bit, this might be a little bit of a vague, large idea, but you probably have heard this. If it's a little bit psychoanalytic, I've heard this sort of something as a container in therapy. So music itself can kind of serve as a structure for activities that might feel awkward, or that you might need a start and end time for. Now, this is not about kids, but one of the ways I sometimes talk to people about this is when I was working in the hospital, I noticed that if a family member was sitting with another family member who was very ill, they felt more comfortable maybe crying, or holding the person's hand, or kind of whispering to them while the music was playing. And then when the music stopped, they sort of took a deep breath and stopped. And it may just be that it feels more quote unquote normal to cry or feel emotional during a song. Not that I think that's necessarily good that they didn't feel comfortable crying outside of the music, but it just, it's a tool we can use, that some things just feel more comfortable during music. So some ideas are I love you rituals, purposeful expressions of love and touch. So that first one, I love you rituals, this is something I'm just learning about this idea of conscious discipline. And I'm trying to learn more about it, but I like it so much I wanted to share it with you. And there's a video there about it. And part of it is, I believe, teaching positive skills and teaching positive skills before you're having to correct skills that you're not looking for. So somebody just mentioned something about social skills. So this is one way you are showing kind words, you're showing gentle touch through these I love you rituals. And in this one, they use Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but they've changed some of the words to be about the person. So I really recommend you watching this YouTube video. You can learn the song from it. But it's just sort of, again, a container for you to show this purposeful affection. Another thing that I think could be beneficial is for older kids and teens is to have time for them to share their music with you. So again, the music is sort of a time structure, just 3 or 4 minutes that you can dedicate to spending with your child. And this may be especially helpful for older kids and teenagers who don't really want to talk about their feelings with you. They may feel more comfortable sharing a song with you, sharing a song that either is kind of what they're feeling, what they're thinking about, or just sharing a song that they really relate to. It's really important if you're going to do this to be non-judgmental and kind of come at it with that approach. Of course, you're going to have some guidelines as a parent for what kind of content you feel is appropriate, but just be mindful of the fact that especially teenagers, music and the music they love is really linked with identity formation. So sharing the music that they love with you can be very vulnerable, and a rejection of that music may feel like a rejection of a part of them. So that's just something to be careful about, kind of balancing, what kind of content in music that you find appropriate for them, but also accepting that their style of music they like might not be what you like exactly. And actually, that's a great opportunity, either between the two of you, or if you have multiple kids who all want to share music with each other, it's a way for you all to share kind of a piece of yourself and then practice, or you can model sort of accepting that everybody has differences, but that we can all find positive things in the things that other people like. It's okay to disagree, but that doesn't mean that we're not friends, or those kinds of positive social skills, like we're different, but we're still friends. We still care about each other, and we can be kind, even if we don't like the music that someone else listens to. And then another kind of container here is songs with specific music or movement instructions. So for example, teachers use this all the time. If in the middle of the day the kids are getting antsy, a teacher is not going to say, go run around the room. Number one, that's not safe. Number two, that might not actually help them regulate. They might get more antsy from just running with no structure. So we can do this on purpose at home too. Play a song with movement instructions. They're following the instructions. They're still getting that motion. They're getting that input. But there's a start and an end point. And because of the way music is structured, they know when to expect the end, and it can be a little more calming. I've put 2 different songs here, just some ideas. Even if you don't speak Spanish, the first one is very fun, really cool illustrations in the video. It's a little bit more high energy. For some kids, moving from a really high energy song straight to sitting at the table or completing their homework is too hard. They need to sort of gradually make their way down. So Bear Hug is an example of sort of a transitional song. They're still moving, but it's more of like a squeeze, or you could do some kind of seated movement so that you're not going straight from high energy to seated, kind of make it a little bit of an arc there. So those are just a couple of examples of music as a container. So a container for showing love and care, relationship building, and then a container for movement and getting some sensory input. The third category is emotional vocabulary building. So emotion regulation is difficult for all ages, but especially kids. They might not know what they're feeling. They can't identify the body sensations. And so it's going to be really hard for them to use a coping strategy, of course. And so but it's never too early to start providing that vocabulary and modeling those words, modeling regulation. So that co-regulation that I've put here, opportunities to practice co-regulation, so that you and the child are practicing getting your body into a more calm place together. So I've kind of broken this into a couple of things here based on, again, that CASEL framework. Two big social emotional skills are self-awareness and self-management. So these first two songs, Grizzly Bear Grump is a song that makes the emotions more concrete. Kids might not know how to describe that they feel angry, but they might be able to say that they feel like a grizzly bear. And, what would you do with your body if you were a grizzly bear? And the second one, Come Out Feelings, goes through a few different emotions and kind of what you do when you have those emotions. So it starts to put together, okay, that person's crying, they're probably sad, or I feel like crying. What could I do? Maybe I could ask for a hug, maybe find my adult. So it has some different ideas. And then self-management is the second little category here. And this is the ability to effectively regulate these emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. So again, these are some songs that just have some of that vocabulary. All I want to do is dance is one. And it's kind of like you're feeling mad or you're feeling sad. And all I want to do is, insert here. This is one that I'll often use as a songwriting one. And actually, all of these songs are a good opportunity to engage in some conversation. So if it says all I want to do is dance, and you do the song, and then you ask your child, what do you want to do when you're mad? Do you want to dance? Do you want to stomp? When I'm mad, all I want to do is, go to my room. All I want to do is scream. And then you can talk about, when would that be appropriate? Would it be appropriate to scream? What are some other things you could do when all you want to do is scream? So a lot of these are just kind of jumping off points. Again, I keep going back to that idea of the container. They kind of are a starting point for talking about a lot of these topics. Breathe is another one. That one's really a follow along breathe song. And you'll kind of see that you all will get this PDF, but you'll notice I've got a lot of Stephanie Level. Oh, I spelled her name wrong. Has two L's. A lot of Stephanie Level, Miss Katie Sings, Narwhals and Waterfalls. Even if these songs don't work for you, I hope that you can follow these artists and maybe create some diversity in the music that you're listening to with your younger kids. They have a lot of good songs about these kind of social skills and emotions. So check them out. Let's see. So the next category is expression. So Sometimes it's easier to express something through music than verbally. Kind of touched on that earlier, particularly with teenagers. And so this is sort of a similar idea that I've put here to maybe create a playlist with your child or teenager that expresses a variety of thoughts and feelings. And if you have that as kind of a menu, later on, you can, if your child doesn't feel like answering that question, how was school today or whatever, they might feel okay picking a song. What song describes how your day was? What song describes how you're feeling? And then you can listen to the song together. And so you're still having that opportunity to validate how they're feeling and making that space for them to feel that way. But they're not having to do a whole lot of work that they might not be able to do, especially if they're dysregulated or feeling a really strong emotion. Or if, at a certain age, they just don't want to talk to you, they just don't want to talk about it. At least not right then. So this can be kind of an in. I often find in music therapy with really tough topics, sometimes the first way to kind of breach those topics is to just recognize what the people in the song are doing. So you're not talking about yourself yet, which can be really vulnerable, but talking about song lyrics is a great opportunity to talk about tough feelings without it being personal yet. So that's another thing that you can do, just like with those previous videos about it, or points about emotions and regulation. How much of my time here? So again, I pointed out to be careful that, especially with teenagers, that music is a big part of their identity. So balancing that with the content appropriateness. And then also instrument play. I didn't put a lot here because really any instruments that you have at home, you can just put on a recorded song and play, and showing that there's no right or wrong way to express through music, that you can play loud if that's appropriate. You can play fast, you can play slow, you can make up a rhythm, or you can just play random notes. If that's how you're feeling, that's okay. And that really leads into this, the last big section here, which is curiosity and self-compassion. So a lot of kids that I work with in lessons and things, something that I'm kind of combating with them is this feeling like everything has to be perfect. And sometimes that causes negative emotional responses. And so practicing making mistakes, that it's okay, good positive language about that, but also just playing and improvising where it really doesn't matter what you play. It's all good. You can make this really simple by just picking 2 notes and going back and forth. I've put that on the PDF here under improvisation. You'll hear, if you listen to this Ella Jenkins song, there's someone improvising in the background on a xylophone. It doesn't really go with the music. It's just kind of like ding, 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 ding. But that's great. It's an expression, it's play. And that being playing and improvising and having the courage to make mistakes really is a great place to start for the way that life is. When I learned to play music, I was reading it off a sheet, and life's not that way. You don't have that blueprint. You have to improvise. You have to be willing to make mistakes and have the confidence to take on challenges. So starting through music, which the stakes are not as high. The stakes aren't very high when it's, am I playing the drum too fast? And so that's a great place to start practicing that mental flexibility. And then there's a couple of just positive self-talk songs here, which are again, just getting that vocabulary, some of that self-compassion vocabulary. And then finally, I do recommend, I've mentioned this before, this isn't at home necessarily, unless you've got several people in your household. Engaging in a group has a lot of unique benefits, whether that's a band, if it's a music therapy group, something at school or something outside of school, that and I'll let you, read this when you get this in your email, but all those benefits of teamwork, taking turns. And I do recommend, especially if you have a particular concern that your child struggles with social emotional skills and interacting with others, that you check in and see if the teachers are keeping that in mind, and if they're considering neurodiversity. But I will send this. I want to be mindful of our time. I'm not exactly sure how much time we've got. I'm going to go back to my slideshow here and check out the chat. So that's kind of the big thing. And that was kind of fast going over that, but I know I'm sending you with the PDF. And so there's little different things that you can click on and some other tips in there as well. So here's my last slide. That's all I've got to present. So I'm going to take a look at the chat and see what people have said. Let's see. So Wendy mentioned 17-year-old with an IEP, social skills. So and I'm not sure at what point in my presentation you sent that. That is one thing you could check in with the school and see if that's something they could offer. I will say in Fayette County schools, they don't currently offer groups. It's all individual services within the school system. So I guess one question I would have, and Wendy, if you want to reach out to me directly too, is depending on your child's diagnosis, there are some specific places that have structured social skill or like social events. So Aaron's Hope for Friends is one place that you might want to look into. Aaron's Hope for Friends, that's specifically for autism, I believe, but I think it's open. The Down Syndrome Association of Central Kentucky has a lot of groups. I'm working on starting a music group at Wildwood, and we've done adaptive rock band kind of groups. I think that really finding a place for your child to interact with other kids, even if it's just one other person, I'm kind of dancing around this answer because it is so hard for me to say without meeting your child. And somebody mentioned, Kelly, you said, do you diagnose the kids? No. So we don't have that. That's not part of our scope of practice. So we often have kids and people of all ages that come to us with a diagnosis or maybe not. But we'll often collaborate with PTOT speech. Families can share as much or as little as they want about their child with us. We like to have more information so we can do a more informed assessment and better care. But I'm just reading another quote from here. Yes, so I'll check with Zeta about getting a copy of the PowerPoint. But yeah, when Kelly mentioned getting emotional when you can't get a new concept. That is a very common thing that we work on in music, because it's really a big part of learning an instrument, learning anything, is you're making mistakes and how to deal with it. But another thing that we try really hard to do is scaffolding everything that we're doing so that you're making as few mistakes as possible. You are really breaking down a task into its smaller chunks. And that's something that we can talk with families about too, is whatever music you're doing at home, different ways of making it smaller, making it more approachable. So that you're getting that kind of instant success. And once you build that confidence that, okay, I can do this, we can start to layer a little bit more complicated music and stuff. So let's see. Yeah, I'm reading Wendy's ADHD. Yeah, I think that honestly, I think that Wendy, we could talk longer, and I feel like I still would need a little more information. This is great. I appreciate you sharing that information too. But potentially using where I might start is one of the ideas of having like a playlist, having some music, coming up with some songs that describe some different feelings, or even songs that describe different types of interactions. And songs where people are nice to each other, songs where people are saying something mean to the singer and how they're reacting. Those can be a great way to start talking about social interactions. Again, starting sort of outside of yourself and then applying it to your own life can sometimes be easier. So how did the singer react when this guy said this to her? Do you think that was a good way to react? How might you react if somebody said that to you? What were the consequences when the singer reacted that way? What were the consequences of that? That might be one idea to start, is to start talking about those songs start talking about those social interactions within music, just from the music therapy perspective. But to then apply those things, finding some places where he can be, or I'm sorry, where they can be with other people. So, and I know this is about music skills. But if you are interested in reaching out to me at Wildwood, I have been wanting to put something together for teenagers, because I think that's kind of there's sort of a gap there. There's a lot more stuff for kids, but there's maybe a gap for teenagers, availability of those kind of services. Another thing, if you do have older kids too, is I would look into parks and recreation, therapeutic recreation, and that might actually be open for 17-year-olds. I think that it is. Or it might be that you have to be 18, but therapeutic recreation has tons of programs. And we do some music groups with them. We've got a rock band and a social group and ukulele group, but they have all kinds of sports, and they do nature hikes and some more cognitive things. So that's another sort of a low-key opportunity to build social relationships. And the stakes are low. I kind of mentioned that before with music. The stakes are pretty low when you're engaging in music, so you can practice a lot of skills that require courage and taking risks, quote unquote risks, in a safe environment. Yeah, does anybody else have any questions, or you're welcome to just turn on your microphone. But if I'll just go ahead and say this is our contact information. I think you can see that now. You can, if we're off of the PDF, if you'd like to reach out at any time or see what we're offering, you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook, or check out our website if you want to try to register for something. Or if you have any follow-up questions about these kind of skills, you can send me an email. That number is, you can text or call that number. But yeah, I'll just kind of open it up, or is that if, I don't know if you have any questions.